Imagine waking up one morning to a message that changes everything. A single email, a short announcement, your job is gone. Not just yours, hundreds of jobs. Gone. Overnight. This isn't science fiction, this is real life, and it just happened in California, not once, but 3 times in just a few days. In this video, we'll uncover how 3 major factories shut down within weeks of each other, taking thousands of stable jobs with them. We'll reveal the hidden reasons behind these closures, reasons that could affect workers across the country. You'll hear about the families who suddenly found themselves without income, the towns now bracing for economic collapse, and the shocking trends many aren't talking about. By the end of this video, you'll understand why this might be just the beginning, and what it means for the future of work in America. So if you want to know what's really happening beneath the headlines, hit that play button and watch till the end. You won't believe what's going on behind the scenes. Welcome to the channel where we uncover the stories that shape our world. Don't forget to hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a story like this again. Before we talk about the full impact of these closures, let's go back to what actually happened, because it wasn't just one factory that shut down, it was 3, and it all unfolded within days of each other. First came the news from Modesto, a major food processing plant, a staple in the community for over 20 years, suddenly announced its immediate closure. The company sent out a short email to employees stating that due to economic pressures beyond our control, operations would stop by the end of the week. No severance package details, no transition plan, just a final message and a locked door the next Monday morning. That alone would have been shocking enough. But just 2 days later, another blow hit Southern California. A large automotive parts manufacturer in Fontana, employing hundreds of workers, made a public announcement. Not through a press release, but through a single post on their official social media page. They said they were temporarily halting production while they reassess business conditions. But insiders say there's little hope of reopening. Equipment has already been sold off and management has gone silent. Then, just when it seemed like a bad week couldn't get worse, the third strike came from Northern California. A tech manufacturing facility near Sacramento, once known as one of the region's top employers in advanced electronics, filed for emergency shutdown. This time there was a statement, but it was vague and short. The company blamed ongoing supply chain disruptions, rising energy costs, and regulatory challenges. In total, these 3 closures wiped out more than 4,000 jobs, almost overnight. These weren't small, struggling startups. These were well-established companies, some operating for decades, some even expanding just a few years ago. Now, thousands of families are facing financial uncertainty, and entire communities are bracing for the ripple effects. What makes this even more unsettling is how quietly it all happened. There were no public hearings, no government warnings, no early signs that made headlines, just sudden coordinated exits, like a pattern no one saw coming. Some workers reported being called in for what they thought were routine meetings, only to be handed layoff notices. Others found out through local news before getting any official word from their employer. One former employee described the experience as being ghosted by your job, like one day you had a career and the next you're just unemployed. Publicly, the companies gave different reasons, but none offered detailed explanations. The food processing company cited inflation and shrinking margins. The auto parts maker pointed to shifting market demands. The tech firm mentioned compliance costs. But many analysts see a common thread: California's increasingly difficult business environment. And while some state officials responded with concern, others remained quiet, raising questions about whether anyone truly saw this coming. As the dust settles, one thing becomes clear: this wasn't just a string of bad luck, something bigger is happening. And to understand why, we need to look at the forces that push these companies to walk away, forces that may still be at work across the state. Before we talk about the human impact of these job losses, let's take a closer look at what really pushed these companies to shut down, because the reasons go far beyond just bad business decisions. At the heart of it all is one word: cost. Not just any cost. The skyrocketing expenses that have made California one of the most expensive places in the country to operate a factory. First on the list, labor costs. California has some of the highest minimum wages in the US, and while that's good for workers, it's a heavy burden for manufacturers trying to stay competitive. Add in rising healthcare premiums, workers' compensation insurance, and mandatory overtime rules, and it becomes clear why many companies say they simply can't keep up. Then there's the issue of energy prices. California businesses pay nearly double the national average for electricity, and for factories that run 24/7, that kind of expense adds up fast. Some plant managers have even admitted that energy bills alone were pushing them toward the breaking point. Another major factor: regulations. California is known for having some of the strictest environmental, labor, and safety laws in the country, and while many are well intentioned, they also create a maze of compliance challenges for manufacturers. One former executive from the tech factory put it bluntly: "We spent more time filling out paperwork than building products." And let's not forget the supply chain crisis, which hits small and mid-sized factories especially hard. With global shipping delays, rising material costs, and limited access to critical components like semiconductors, many companies found themselves stuck in a cycle of missed deadlines and mounting losses. Some companies tried to hold on by cutting costs elsewhere, reducing staff, halting expansion plans, or delaying maintenance. But eventually, for three of California's largest manufacturing plants, the numbers just didn't add up anymore. One surprising detail: two of the closed factories had been approached by buyers from other states, but the move would have required relocating operations completely. Instead of jumping through hoops to stay in California, company leaders chose to walk away. There's also growing evidence that businesses are quietly choosing to leave rather than fight the system. One leaked internal memo from an auto parts supplier revealed that executives had been exploring relocation options for over a year, looking at Texas, Nevada, and Arizona, where taxes, energy costs, and regulations are far lower. This wasn't panic, it was planning. And while no single factor caused these closures, together they formed a perfect storm, one that may still be brewing across the state. Before we talk about what comes next for California's economy, let's take a step inside the lives of the people who were hit the hardest, the workers who woke up one day to find their livelihoods gone. For many, the news came with little to no warning. One moment they were clocking in for another shift, the next, they were handed layoff papers or watching bulldozers roll into the parking lot. In Modesto, where the food processing plant shut down, longtime employee Maria Gonzalez described the scene as like a nightmare. She had worked there for 14 years, supporting her two kids and aging parents. The company offered just 2 weeks of severance, not nearly enough to cover rent, bills, and the sudden loss of health insurance. It felt like being dropped from a plane without a parachute, she said in a local radio interview. No training, no job placement help, just told to go home. In Fontana, where the auto parts factory closed, hundreds of workers gathered outside the gates in disbelief. Many had spent decades at the plant, expecting to retire with pensions and benefits. Instead, they found themselves scrambling to apply for unemployment and looking for jobs that may not even exist in their area anymore. And then there's Sacramento, where the tech manufacturing layoffs hit skilled workers who thought they were insulated from economic downturns. Engineers, technicians, and logistics managers, people with specialized training, suddenly found themselves in a shrinking job market. One former technician, speaking anonymously, revealed that the factory had already begun relocating some operations months before the official closure. He said rumors had been circulating, but management never confirmed anything until it was too late. "I had meetings the week before the shutdown where I was told everything was fine," he said. "By Friday, we were told not to come back Monday." The ripple effect is hitting entire towns. Local businesses, from gas stations to diners, are reporting sharp drops in customers. Some schools are already bracing for declining enrollment as families consider moving elsewhere for work. And social services are preparing for an influx of new applicants needing help with food, housing, and medical assistance. But perhaps the most heartbreaking part, many of these workers say they feel forgotten by their companies, by the government, and by a system that once promised stability. As one laid-off worker put it, "We built this state, we powered its growth. Now, when we needed support the most, no one showed up." Before we wrap up this story, let's zoom out for a moment, because what happened in Modesto, Fontana, and Sacramento might be just the tip of the iceberg. These three factory closures didn't happen in a vacuum. They're part of a growing trend, one that economists and labor experts have been quietly watching for years. And now the warning signs are getting louder. California has long been known as an economic giant, home to Silicon Valley, Hollywood, and some of the most innovative industries in the world. But behind the headlines, the state's manufacturing sector has been quietly shrinking. Factories closing, jobs disappearing, companies relocating, and while job loss is nothing new, the speed and scale of recent events suggest something deeper at play, a shift that could change the state's economic identity forever. One major concern? The brain drain isn't just happening in tech. Skilled workers from manufacturing, logistics, and engineering are also looking elsewhere, not just for jobs, but for stability. Many say they're tired of high taxes, rising living costs, and a job market that feels increasingly uncertain. Some are even heading to states like Texas, Arizona, and Nevada, places where companies are setting up new facilities and offering better wages with lower overhead. These states aren't just attracting businesses, they're attracting talent, the very people California once relied on to fuel its growth. And then there's the policy question. Lawmakers have tried to offer relief through grants and tax credits, but many argue it's not enough or comes too late. Some companies say the red tape is so thick by the time they get approvals, they've already made plans to leave. Even more troubling, some analysts believe these closures could trigger a domino effect. When a large factory shuts down, it doesn't just take its workers with it, it impacts suppliers, distributors, local vendors, and small businesses nearby. Entire ecosystems begin to unravel. This isn't just about lost jobs, it's about lost trust. Trust in the economy, in the system, in the idea that hard work leads to security. And if California doesn't start addressing the real reasons why companies and workers are walking away, this won't be the last time we see mass layoffs make headlines. Because here's the truth. When even the strongest employers start leaving, it's not just a sign of trouble, it's a warning. A warning that the Golden State may be entering a new chapter, one that could reshape its future for decades to come. What happened in California wasn't just a string of bad luck, it was a pattern, one that's been building for years beneath the surface, and now it's playing out in real time. 3 factories closing in days, thousands of jobs lost overnight, communities shaken, families thrown into uncertainty. But behind each headline is a deeper story about rising costs, shifting policies, and the growing struggle to survive in one of the most expensive business climates in the country. These closures should serve as more than just local news. They're a warning shot, not just for California, but for anyone who believes job stability is guaranteed in today's economy. The ripple effects are already spreading. Workers are searching for new opportunities. Companies are weighing their options. Entire towns are bracing for what comes next. And while some may argue this is just the cost of progress, others see it as a sign that something needs to change before more jobs, more businesses, and more futures are lost. So what happens now? That's the question we all need to be asking. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another deep dive like this. And if you have thoughts on what's really driving these job losses, drop them in the comments. We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching.